Welcome, beautiful beings, to this our sacred divine love space. I have spent the last 2 hours attempting to live stream via YouTube, which is something I have been learning how to do for the last probably about 18 months now, and for one reason or another, for various reasons, it has not been possible yet. 4 times I tried this morning in the last, probably in the first in the last couple of hours. I tried 4 times, and it was saying to me it's going live, and I believe this is due to internet connection, a very old laptop. If there's anyone kind enough out there that wishes to donate a laptop that works, that is able and has the capabilities to handle live streaming, considering that I hear a lot about when we connect, when we're tuned into the frequency of those that are meant to, that we can serve as we're serving the divine source, creator, mother, father, God, your higher self, your divine self, your true self, whatever you wish to call that, as we're serving that which is, the more expanded perspective, the more expanded version than just our human self. It's that part of us which is then connected to the collective, or the collective consciousness. I've come to understand there's many different terms, all kind of meaning the same thing, just depending on our own perspective, where we're coming from, what we've heard, what resonates with us. So what resonates with me is my truth, what resonates to a select portion of people, what resonates as true for someone else may resonate with another select group of people. It just all depends on who we are, not just as our human self, but also who we are on a soul level, a spiritual level, a higher consciousness level, our divine self level, our true self level, all those different aspects. Because I do feel like there is, in this limitless, infinite, multiverse, many times, limitless, infinite number of times over, every single possibility, potentiality that we can imagine, that we can conjure up, we can co-create, we can design, we can imagine, we can think about, exists out there somewhere. And it's not, as the next step, if you like, on this ladder, and say the ladder of ascension, but it's not really going up, it's going within. This next step but I see it as, even though it's going within, I see when we're expanding consciousness, how I've come to understand it, how my guidance tells me, and divine guidance tells me, is that it's like, is it interesting circles, where you get one circle, another layer, another circle, and it just continues out. And it's just forever expanding. We're forever evolving, or not, as the case may be, but we're always evolving, we're always changing. But I've come to understand it, that sometimes we might be evolving, and other times we can be devolving, in a sense. But it's not really a devolving, it's always an evolving. It's just sometimes we may feel like that we're kind of going backwards, because we're testing ourselves, in a sense. Like I heard a channel or an external source saying the other day that there are different groups, as there are different demographics of people, obviously different groups of spiritual levels, I suppose, in a sense, different groups of beings that resonate with these different spiritual truths, which for me are divine truths. And that's what this channel is all about. Well, it started off as just helping people along, using myself, because the only real experience that I know of 1155, and that I can really talk about with conviction and with certainty on if you can be certain about anything, is my experiences, what I've been through, how I went from where I was stuck in a place of self-loathing to where I am now in a place of self-love. And more than just self-love, divine love. And more staying within the balanced, aligned, connected frequency of divine love, more than allowing myself to, or choosing, making a decision to slip outside of that and become unbalanced. That's not the right word. To tune out of that frequency in a multiverse where, or at least on this planet, as far as I know, in this reality, in this present now. And that's where I was going before, saying it's all a present now. It's not that it's out there, which is what we've been taught, which is what we've been shown by society, that everything exists out there. It isn't. Everything exists within. I just realised I'm holding this card. It's all answers lie within. They do. And I've been hearing that an awful lot throughout my life. All answers lie within. And I was, what does that mean? Just going to go and meditate? Just go inside. And I found it really difficult to be able to meditate, just to quieten the mind. Practically impossible. Not that anything is impossible. The word is I am possible, not impossible. I am possible. Everything is possible. If we can thunk it, if we can imagine it, if we can, we can co-create it. And the reason we can co-create it is because it already exists out there, because we have already thought about it. And being powerful manifestors, being powerful generators, being powerful co-creators, that we are. This is why it's so important to be aware of, be the observer of our thoughts, but also be the observer of our feelings. And our emotions are energy in motion, but be aware of our feelings. There are different, I don't remember which way around, if it's a thought first or a feeling first. I may have heard, thank you birds, I may have heard both sides and resonated with both sides, that the thought came first or the feeling came first. It's like the chicken and the egg. What came first, chicken or the egg? Answers on a postcard. All I know is that along this journey I have been gifted by my divine self, by my spirit, if you like, by my soul self, being gifted that this is the lifetime, this is the incarnation for me, where I wake the F up completely, where I wake up to the complete awakening and enlightenment, enlightenment of who I truly am, not from human self. For me, in the beginning, it was all about psychology. It was all about the mind, very mentally based, all about the mind, which is I find it very difficult to actually meditate and to quieten the mind. I can now get into a space of quieter mind, and that quieter mind is not so much the mind gets quieter. What I found happens for me is my mind expands. So it's not for me quieting, there's no sort of quieting, but for me, it's like the mind expands, but it feels expansive, not because the mind necessarily expands, but it feels expansive because it feels, what happens is my mind connects to the greater mind, the collective mind, the God consciousness, the source consciousness, whatever you call it, that's, which for me is divine. When I say divine, that is for me is divine. Mother, Father, God, source, creator, the consciousness of that, because I've heard a term somewhere saying that they actually bring through the consciousness of these specific energies and frequencies. So it's not necessarily, whereas and again, I can't comment from them, it's just what they've mentioned, what they do, and obviously that's what's truth for them, and that resonates with me. For myself, I bring through, I'm connected, I connect with basically just tuning into the frequency of high vibrational frequencies and energies. The first one being divine love. That's what first came to me, was this divine love. Something I've always felt on some level, always known on some level. I mean, always felt, always known in some level. So when something that is actually true for us, apologies, I'm shaking the desk. When something I've come to understand, this is not just information that, or some wisdom or from my own experiences that comes from me. This is stuff that I've heard from a multitude of external sources, whether it's secondhand hearing someone else go through an experience actually face to face, someone that I know, or whether it's an external source that's come to me via a social media platform, someone I actually listen to and resonate with, or whether it's my divine guidance. And what tends to happen is it's all of that. I will hear something that I've already heard at some other point, at some other now moment, and at that moment, in that moment, that version of me that I was in that now moment, I was not less than. I was different. So my perspective was not as it is now. My perspective on things, when you are able to raise your vibration, which for me is expanding your consciousness, it feels like there's the two. You've got the energetic side of it, and you've got sort of the mental side. You've also got the physical side, the emotional side. So you've got the emotional intelligence, the same as you've got financial intelligence. Emotional intelligence, I would say you've got physical, I suppose, intelligence. Then you've got a mental intelligence, in a sense, but not intelligence that anything is, better than or more special than or anything like that, because everyone has access and the capabilities to be able to access all of this, to tune into the frequencies, all of this. However, there is a process to go through to be able to tune into those frequencies and those energies. We all have access, we all have the capabilities to be able to do that, but it is a choice and it's a decision every single day to come from love instead of fear. And when we start to more and more make choices to come from love, there's a lot of stuff that comes up from the fear base, which is, part of the ego, that's part of the programming that we've had for eons. It's part of everyone else's BS that people have projected onto us because they were coming from a wounded perspective, a limited wounded perspective. It's like this whole idea that we have many different layers. We do have many different layers. So in the beginning for me, it was very mentally based, because I was very mentally, my star sign is very mentally based. Just know I was a human, I was very mental, I was very logical, very analytical, sometimes overly, quite a lot, used to be overly so. But I was also very spiritual, so I had the scientific mind, I had the scientific interest. I love a little bit of research and sort of finding scientific stuff to back up what I feel on a spiritual level, what I feel from my heart. Excuse me, but at some point, it's almost like what's coming through now, what just came to me then, is it's almost like we start off as these heart-based, maybe not every being, that obviously every human, but, and my understanding, I started off as a heart-based being. I started off as a heart-based human being when I was first born. Felt a whole lot more than I was even more aware of and would have been able to actually cope with. Wasn't really taught how to, the same as a lot of children aren't really shown or taught, because they're coming from parents and caregivers, aren't really shown or taught themselves. So there's no judgment here. It's just that cycle playing out, the fear-based perspective playing out. And so I wasn't really taught or shown how to deal with the amount of information that's coming in. It's not just information that's coming through, mentally. It's information, I think you've got all the five senses, but then you've got all the other senses as well. So all this barrage of information is coming through. It's been coming through constantly, and it can be very overwhelming when you're not shown how or why, or how to first of all decipher what is yours and what is not, and let go the stuff that is not, rather than internalize it and hang on to it and make it yours. Now the process of going from the fear-based perspective and all the stuff coming up, because all this stuff starts to come up, and all it is just showing you where in your energetic field, so within my auric field, where there is an imprint of something that happened, whether it was to me or to someone else, whether it's them projecting onto me, whether it's an actual experience that I might have a different version, a younger version of me had, that's left, that was traumatic to my being at that point, whether it's someone else projecting something onto me and that caused a reaction. and that was traumatic. It was overwhelming. It was traumatic in some way, and that caused a wounding, or whether it was something I actually experienced. Whether it was whether it's being disciplined and being physically hit, whether it was some other traumatic things that transpired as previous versions of me, which people go through traumatic stuff all the time, and as a child, everything can be considered traumatic, because children are emotional sponges. And when you are a child that has more senses switched on than just the 5 senses that we're told about and we're shown how to use, you're picking up on so much, but you don't know how to decipher, you don't know how to go through all of this and to let go of, to not take on what is not yours. So this, going from the fear-based perspective, all of these emotions, behaviors, thought processes, thought patterns, behavioral patterns, both in myself internally, and stuff that was, because we know what's on the external is just a projection of what's on the internal. So if something's flagging up on the outside world, that's because there's something within us that resonates with whatever it is on the outside. There is something within us that is attracted, and has attracted in and also attracted to that which we're experiencing on the outside. It is the micro is the internal, the macro is the external. The micro is Earth, the macro is the cosmos. This is in, you can see this in everywhere. Like it's in everything. There's a micro, there's a macro, there's a cause, and there's an effect. For every action, there's a reaction to that action. And what I've been able to do, which I am very proud of myself for, as it's been a challenging, extremely challenging path to take. And I was not forewarned, but I was foretold by a medium many years ago, who I've been to see a few times. Was a lovely being, beautiful soul. Didn't charge us much. They just accepted donations for what they did. So for me, there's someone that's just accepted donations, and they're doing it just purely for the love of the heart. There's something in that. They were a heart-based being. They were heart connected. They were heart-centered and heart-based. Is how they were living their life. They're a beautiful being. And they told me many years ago that I chose in this incarnation in my life. And I didn't even believe in incarnation back then, because I thought it was more religious than spiritual at the time. They told me that I had chosen a life to go like this. So instead of going from A to B, the easy route, no, I had chosen zigzag, because that, as I heard, so I was saying just beforehand, I heard someone saying that there's more than just 2 groups of people, but there are those beings that have had experiences in their childhood which are the reason why they are the way they are now, those experiences in the childhood. And that's what I believe, the whole experience I've had in my childhood, whether I consider them traumatic or not, it doesn't matter, but all the experience I had in my childhood, all the interactions, all the circumstances, all the situations, everything that I experienced has shaped me into who I am here and now. And so I'm very grateful for all of that's happened, for all those beings that were involved, because it is my belief, it is in my truth, it is a divine truth that's come through for me, and this will resonate with who it resonates with. And if it doesn't, that is perfectly perfect too. If things do not resonate with you, then it's just not a truth for you. But just because it's not a truth for you at this time does not mean to say it's not a truth for you at some other previous time. As we evolve, our beliefs change. Our beliefs are not set. The beliefs are not set in stone. They're just a belief. We can choose to believe it. We can choose not to believe it. That is the power of us as a co-created on this earth. We can choose. We have a choice to make. Everything is a choice. Everything is a decision, with many different possibilities, many different potentialities with every single choice. But that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. But in this choosing of love, and originally I thought it was the mentally based experiences that the mentally based trainings that I've done, sort of self-development trainings and stuff that I've done over the last sort of how many years. The first real interactive fulfillments were about 10 years ago, and it was very mentally based. It was absolutely amazing, and I'd recommend it. See, everyone is free to take their own choices and decide what it is they wish to do, and everyone has to listen to their own intuition and their own discernment and your own guidance first, before above anyone else. Only we know what is really truly right for us. So it's always coming to within first. We can listen, we can ask our guides, we can ask our divine self, that part of us, whatever we connect with, to bring us information that will be beneficial of us on our path, that will help guide us along our way, that will give us those inspired next action steps to take along our path of least resistance. We're getting signs and synchronicities all the time, which is just, for me, is just in guidance. It's just divine guidance, if we choose to see it like that, because again, it is a choice. You can choose. The world can be seen in many, many different perspectives. I choose to see the world through the eyes of love. I choose to connect and tune into the frequency of divine love above all else. But that goes via me first. So I tune into my divine self first, my divine love frequency first, because we all have our own individual frequency that we were born with. It's individual to us. Even though we're all connected to a collective consciousness, we're all part of creation. We all have our own soul signature, if you like. They've actually shown that your DNA, each person's DNA, or each being's DNA, what about being, but each person's DNA can actually be made into a song, because DNA is individual to that specific individual. It's mine. So my DNA signature is my DNA signature, which can be made into a song, which I've been searching around for. There was a company that used to do it, but they no longer seem to be running. So if anyone knows about that, or has any ideas about that, please, I would love to hear. I'd be very grateful if you would share. You can find contact details of mine within the bio stuff, and you can contact me via one of those places. But I would love to know more about that. So we ought to have, for me, this is the DNA. Again, we have our own individual energetic frequency. And when I was born as a heart-based being, my individual vibrational frequency was of a certain resonance, a certain frequency. And at some points, with all the experiences and stuff that happened, all the internalizing of everyone else's BS, and I ended up feeling like I was wrong. I was highly insecure, but also I was very insecure about self. I trusted the outside world a lot, as we were told to. We're told to put authority and power into those that are outside of us, not internally, not into our own divine guidance and wisdom. Even though so many things have happened through my life where I knew it before it happened. I knew when somebody was lying to me. I just chose to ignore it. Decision. I chose to ignore it because I chose to trust them rather than trust myself, because the trust, it wasn't so much the connection I had dimmed, if you like. It was still there. It was never switched off. I used to think it was, back in the days of starting this YouTube channel, I started writing some blogs, and one of the articles was about being disconnected. It was not a case that I was actually disconnected, because it was always there. And this is stuff that resonated with, truths and stuff that have come back to me from things that have flagged up every now and again, and they'll hit me, and it's like, yeah, I didn't realize I did that, but that makes complete sense. That explains so clearly what I was doing, what was happening back then. It's just I didn't have anyone to explain to me what it was happening at the time. So you learn to distrust yourself, especially when you ask people questions, or you ask people questions, or you ask people questions, and they give you a different answer. They tell you that what you're feeling, what you're picking up on, it's not just a feeling, what you're picking up on is incorrect. So because you trust them, you learn to you distrust yourself. But all of the times, looking back, all of the times where many things that I knew when somebody's lying to me, I still do. That's just increased, and all this stuff has just increased. You know, it's different now. Because I is different now. I trust myself now more than I ever did. I trust my own divine self. I trust in my connection to the divine. I trust that frequency because I feel it. It's so strong and so beautiful. But yeah, so heart-based being is how I was born, how a lot of us will, be born, if not all of us. If your heart's not beating, then you're not alive, are you? But somewhere along the way, as we lose that childhood innocence, that childhood wonder, the childhood wonder I never actually lost, but the childhood innocence we kind of lose for whatever reason, for a multitude of reasons, because of we're born to people that have been hurt people without even realise they're hurting people. A lot of it is not even done on purpose. It's just trauma cycles. They're a cycle, they go around. It's history repeating itself because no one knows how to break that and stop that from happening. Well, there are those of us, and these are the people that I'll be speaking to now, that will resonate with this in the same way or similar way, on the same level that I am. Will also be the ones that at some point in this incarnation, because at some point before they incarnated, it was part of their spiritual evolution to break those cycles, to say no more. I'm not going to be the same as everyone else. I'm not going to keep making the same decisions, not mistakes. I almost said mistakes there, but they're not mistakes. It's all part of the evolutionary ladder, all part of the evolutionary expansion of consciousness, expansion of ourselves, from a spiritual perspective, not just our human perspective, but our spiritual perspective. It's all just bringing us closer and closer back home to love, to divine love. And as I've said before, divine love is where, creation is where we came from, is where we're all eventually going to go back to, is that where we all came from. That's the beginning, it's the end. I believe some people call it the 0 point. It's because the 0 point is where everything began and where everything will end, except it never ends. So again, it's like that cycle. But I've come to understand it's not really a cycle. I realised this a few years ago. I realised there was these patterns that were coming up, and it was like I'd kind of dealt with something, cleared some wounding out. So this is what happens. So born heart-based being, other people dump stuff without realising. There's no judgment there. Dump stuff, you make up beliefs based on the woundings, and the traumatic experience happened, it caused a wounding. You make up a limiting belief about yourself or about the world, which then changes you and limits your perspective of reality as it really is. And then you go through life from this limited perspective, and because these woundings, they distort your own individual energetic frequency, you're then attracting in and attracted to that which is also distorted on the same frequency as your distorted frequency. It's not your actual individual core vibrational frequency that you're operating from, that you're attracting in, you're attracted to. No, you're attracted to and attracting in that which resonates with your distorted frequency, which is why sometimes it can seem that we're in relationships with the same people over and over again. I don't just mean intimate relationships. I mean in relationships with anyone that we meet, in any capacity that we meet them. And at some point, excuse the dog barking, the dog's just confirmation of what I'm saying is divine truth. They'll stop at some point. Someone's just coming in. So we go along our merry little path, being the beings that we are in our own, frequency, triggering people left and right, because people react when you've got a certain resonance frequency. One of the reasons that I know that I came here in this incarnation, and this will be the same for others, is to trigger others. When you've got a certain vibrational frequency, there'll be some certain vibrational frequency. And I was born into a family who have got a vibrational frequency that doesn't match mine. They've all got the same vibrational frequency or very similar. Mine's different, but it was meant that way. I chose to be born into that family because it was going to give me the initiations, it was going to give me the trainings, it was going to give me the teachings, the challenges that I needed, so that if I was to overcome them, if I was to transcend them, in a sense, if I was going to use those experiences, those interactions, those circumstances in the way that my divine self intended, was so that I'd get me to a certain point. Here I am now, where I've been able to dust at some point those woundings off. I've been able to go within, do the exploratory work, go within and transmute, dismantle the limiting beliefs, transmute the energetic distorted frequencies of those implant woundings that were there within my being, and they are on physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic, level, and all levels these wounded imprints can be, which is why sometimes it feels like, that we've dealt with something. Many times I feel like, I dealt with that now, okay, yeah, I've dealt with that wounding, that's done now. And then a little while later it would seem to flag up again, sometimes in other people, sometimes in the same person. And then I started noticing, because I've done, then I'm saying this is not comparison to what anyone else has done or anything like that, this is just me. I know, and I've been given guidance and confirmation by what resonates with me, is that I've done a lot of this kind of work, sort of spiritual work, shadow work, whatever you want to call it, inner child healing work, all that kind of stuff, within a short amount of time. It's quite a number of years that I've done in a much shorter amount of time. But that's because I was able, I wanted, it was part of my divine makeup, my divine blueprint to do so. In this incarnation, I've been able to get over a 10 ton of stuff. But in doing so, doing that in a shorter amount of time, so it's like 10, 15 years worth of stuff in maybe about 4. So it's been intense. And it's been one after another, bang, 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 bang. And I have, in the beginning, didn't realise quite what I was doing. And now I'm fully aware that, yes, go and do this. But I know more about how much I can push myself and how I love, because we've all, energetic hangover was a term that came to me within the first year of starting on this path of more spiritual development. Beforehand, it was more sort of self-development, because it was more mentally based and stuff like that. I was aware of the spiritual path, but it was coming at it from a different way. Now, for me, spiritual development is self-development. It's all one and the same. It's our whole self. And for me, when I speak of whole self, I speak of the whole of my being, as much as in its entirety I can know of, which will be my human self, which will be all the different layers of my human self, all the different subtle energy bodies of my human self, and then also my spirit self, my spirit body, my inner self, my higher state of consciousness, my true self, my divine self, all the different other aspects of us that we have, because there's many different other aspects as well. That are also the idea of quantum jumping and quantum timeline jumping, is because for every decision that I make, so I made a decision to sit down here now and start trying to do a live stream and sticking with it for a while. As beforehand, there were a couple of times I was like, oh, this is annoying me now, but I could still feel the excitement there. Actually, the talking, this is the bit that excites me. This is the bit that lights me up. This, along with a few other things, singing and some other stuff, but this actually allowing this tuning into more of that frequency of divine love, divine truth, which for me is just divine freedom, and allowing that to come through in whatever way it wishes to come through. This is no thought process. A lot of the time when this stuff is coming through, it's just coming out. So I won't always know exactly I generally won't know what's going to be said or what is being said until it's being said, because it's not coming from here, it's coming from here. And also from other places, but the energy is coming through from the heart, the sacred heart. And I know the part of what this is it's the energy of love, and the divine energy of love is here to trigger. But those triggerings can be an activation. So for me, again, I've come to understand it that yes, well, I go around and sort of trigger certain people that have something with a wounding within them, that I'll say something or be a certain way. I could just walk into a room when you've got a certain height, when you've got a vibrational frequency, the higher you go, closer, and I mean higher, not necessarily up like a hierarchical ladder, but I mean the higher in vibrational frequency resonance that you go to. So love, I think it's 700 hertz. that's the figure that's coming to me right now. I'm going to question, that's just the figure that's coming to me. But there's an emotional scale that I believe Dr. Stephen Hawking's did. But then I think there are others as well. There's a law of attraction one that Abraham Hicks uses. I don't know if it's the same as the Stephen Hawking's one, but I know there's at least those two. And at least one of them has love, I believe, as being love, or gratitude, I think, being as the highest vibrational frequency resonance, like measured in hertz, that exists, or at least as we know in this incarnation, this time, this reality. But the closer we are to living in that from a balanced state, from an aligned state, when we actually really are resonating and embodying the frequency of that love, which for me is divine love. And I mean divine as in it's love, but it's on a much more expansive scale. It's not just love. I thought it's just love of self. It's not just love of self. This is love of all. This is love of everything. This is, it's as close as, and I wouldn't even say that, I'm quite even there yet. I still think there's, for every single level, I think there is another level, sub-levels, if you like, within those levels in a sense. We're ever evolving, so there's always going to be another level. There's always going to be another expansion. There's always going to be something else to evolve into. But, however, and as we're doing that, we're raising our vibration up this frequency scale. And when you get to sort of a certain point, the level, the expanse, the ability to see, we're able to perceive things in a different way. And again, everyone has capability of doing this. I know this is not me in the sense of my human self. This is something so much more. When I is tuned into the frequency of this, and it can be felt. And it's that energy that then I is tuned into and fully allowing to come through more. If like it's an energy that I've always been connected to, it's an energy I've always been tuned into the frequency of. We're all tuned in and connected to the frequency of divine love. But we can dim ourselves out of it. We can dim ourselves back into it in a sense. We can tune out of it. We can tune back into it. And so if we go through these woundings and stuff, we can, our limited perspective is what tunes us out of it. But as we start to dismantle those limiting beliefs, because they are just beliefs, they're not real, they're not set in stone. They're just beliefs, they're decisions that we've made about the world because of what the world has showed us. And when we're children, we're not shown how to be able to let that stuff that's come onto us, or the stuff we've experienced, we're not shown how to fully allow that to work its way through our system, on an emotional level, on a mental level, on a physical level. Animals will shake themselves after they've had a really intense traumatic experience, and they'll shake the energy off. It doesn't become a wound, it doesn't imprint, it doesn't get imprinted anywhere. They just shake it off they go. We're not taught that as children. We're told to shut up, to stop crying, to not express ourselves, to not express the emotion that's running through us. And that emotion is its energy emotion, and becomes stuck. It becomes stuck in our being somewhere, and because it's called a wound, it becomes implanted, and that then implants, then shapes our, causes, we have a limiting belief because of that wounding. Then we act or behave a certain way because of that wounding. We come from that perspective as someone who's hurt, who's never known love before, and has only experienced hurt and fear. When love comes to them at some point in their life, which it will do, it always does, there's a very high likelihood that they will push that love away because they don't know any different. So experiences I had of not really knowing what real love could look like until I was a lot later, only fairly recently, actually, in the last sort of 10 years. And it's no offence to sort of the people that I was brought up with, just they had a different kind of love. It wasn't a kind of love that I would say, it was probably more of a normal society kind of love. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's many different types of love. But the love which is, and it does exist, true love, fairy tale love does exist, even though it's not seen to be realistic. It's just because that's not something that's been so common in humanity. But it is exist. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've felt it. And it's a whole other kind of love. That's an expansive love. That's a love that will evolve with you, that wishes to grow with you, rather than stunting you or keeping you stuck or keeping you at their level, that a certain level. It's a love that will grow with you. It's a love that will evolve with you. It's an expansive love. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so going through my journey, I was always aware that there was a connection there. It's saying we all have this connection, and this connection that's there for all of us is kind of lying, waiting inside, and every now and again we'll get like a little knock. Hello, are you ready? Can you hear us? Can you hear yourself? Do you feel us? And it's our choice whether we wish to follow that calling, listen to our heart, listen to your heart, it's calling for you, or not. And along this journey, even though it didn't start with the idea originally, like the very first self-development course that I went on was more to give me my family back, was me to rebuild the relationship with my family, because for me that was love. That was the love that I had known, and I believe that's the love that was, that's the only love that there was, but it was important. It was, I'm not saying it's less important now, but it was the important love. And so I did the self-development course, and it was amazing. Unfortunately, none of my family did the self-development course, even though they were going to. But that's not their path to awaken up to who they truly are. They have chosen their path to be where they are, and that is their path in this incarnation. Maybe it will change, maybe it won't. That's not for me to comment on, and it's certainly not for me to try and force them, because I spent a lot of time, I think, going, look, I know there's another way. I can feel that you're not so happy, so satisfied, which again I know exists. It does, because I live so happy, divinely happy, and divinely in love with myself and with creation the majority of the time. Humanness and ego still comes in every day, because I'm still a spiritual being having a human experience. So to have a human experience is to experience everything in the human experience, that game of life that we're all in, we signed up for. But more and more, when the ego is playing up, the ego's telling me things that at one point would have triggered, most of the time, majority of the time, it doesn't have the same impact on me that it did. Every now and again, depending on just, I think, a variety of things, it may get a little bit more of interaction from me, from the human self. Maybe I'll go walk down that path a little bit with it, holding its hand, going, yeah, okay, yeah, oh God, it's all of this is going on, and why is it happening to me? And sometimes you do have a little bit of wallowing, but now more and more, if I'm gonna have a wallow, it's gonna be a few hours I need to wallow and stuff. I'll do what I need to do. But again, there's still a lot of heart guidance in that sometimes we just need to, sometimes if we're gonna experience every single emotion that is available to humans, then just allow ourselves to experience it. But I'm not going to beat the difference is I don't beat myself up for it anymore. I don't tell myself off or criticize myself. Last night I had the ego was playing games, and I allowed the ego to have its moment in playing games. The ego is generally my friend now. The killing of the ego, the death of the ego, the always being in conflict with the ego, which has been in conflict with part of myself. The ego is just the wounded part of us. It's the protector of all the wounded parts of us. It's how I've come to understand. It's how I've come to in a friend my ego. It's been a lot easier for me and a lot less challenging to make friends with the ego and to have conversations with that ego part of myself. It's allowed us to come to almost a truce most of the time, to work together. So it's become, rather than it being my protector and punisher, it's become my protector and cheerleader in some ways, which is something I learned in, it's had a role change, transformational roles. It's changed. And so it's a lot easier for my human self, for the other part of myself, my consciousness, to be able to do what it wants to do, what it needs to do, what my heart is calling, guided to. But without the ego, always making so much of a fuss, or trying to go against, or being critical, or judging. That ego voice, the judgmental, critical voice has got a lot quieter. I said it still plays every now and again. It comes out to play, and that actually means just testing myself in some sense. See, look, divine truth. And that just jumped out. This is how I kind of play with the cards. I mean, these are cards I made myself. These are my divine truth, divine love, divine freedom cards, as I call them. Oh, okay, that was very far too many. Oh, it's only 2. Pause, breathe, and feel. Something that we could all do more of, because it's in the pausing, and I come back into connection with the breath, that automatically, when we do certain types of breathing, will automatically start to change our brainwave state. We'll start to switch our nervous system from whichever the one is always generally stuck in higher states of stress to the other one. I can't remember which way around it is just at the moment. But from one or the other, you can look up these things, research these things. These are all very scientifically proven. But with the breathing, the alter the brainwave states, it happens on many different levels. We can change our brainwave state to one more of relaxation and inner peace and calm. And with that, obviously, comes the switching of our nervous system. Obviously, they're going to be linked, because we're all linked. We're a whole being. We're not just just the mind or just the heart. We're a whole being. We have many different parts to us. But in that, as that starts doing, for me, that is the quieting of the mind. When the brainwave changes, which is also measured as a frequency in hertz, when that is altered, when that changes, I can feel it's like my whole system does relax, and it relaxes from the inside. That's the nervous system switching on or off, whichever way around it is. And in that state, because everything else is just a bit quieter, my inner world expands a bit more. I can I can connect with I can feel the connection, I can feel the connection with my heart that much more, that much stronger. And the feelings within my heart, my sacred heart, that is what's being triggered. When those out there that trigger others, the triggering is an offering of an activation. It is activating their sacred heart. It is, if they choose to take the opportunity and see it as a growth activation, which is what I've come to understand it. So triggering can also be an activation, is what I heard. I just think it's them kind of separate. A triggering for me is when someone's been triggered, there's been an emotional wounding, if you like, that's being pressed because of something they're reacting to in their external. Something internally, internal wounding has been pressed. And they trigger, and that triggering can verbally project then their emotional dysfunction and their energetic dysfunction onto obviously whoever's triggered them. If we are of a more expanded consciousness, if we manage to go with the raising of our vibration up that emotional scale, frequency scale, if we've start to come to more into the awareness and the awakening of who we truly are, that we're heart-based beings, that we are on a spiritual evolutionary journey, that we're more than just this human self, and come to realize that it's how we react to something. Now, we can respond to something rather than react. The reaction is the trigger, the emotional trigger, the energetic trigger, the energetic reaction. Is the triggering of the energetic reaction or the emotional reaction. That's the triggering. If we choose to respond, for me, it's responding. It's not responding to the external. It's responding to what's happening inside of me. It's responding to the internal. What is going on in the internal, and doing these, the pause, the breathing, the feeling stuff. It's all just how do I better know thyself? How do I better come internally into my internal world, my inner world, and do a scan of my whole being, my mental, my emotional, my heart, my, the different chakras, if that's what you want to go with, or you've got your meridian lines, which is based around acupuncture, and the energetic lines that run around the body. You've got a tortual field or energetic field. There's many different layers and levels, and we can check all these out on Google and go search them all, because I'll get them all back to front if I start talking and saying them all about now. But you can go research all this to the different many aspects for me of our being, our whole self, our true whole self. And you can begin to feel all of these in different ways. And each has its own, for me, each has its own, like divine love has its own resonance frequency. I can feel the very subtle. When we start to raise our vibration, we become more attuned to, more aware of the different subtle energy shifts and frequency shifts in everything that's around us. Our senses become that much more heightened and aware of that which we cannot see with our physical human eyes, but yet that which we can see with our third eye, or we can feel with our other senses. We become more aware. I didn't realize how aware I was. I didn't realize how aware I was because I was so unaware back in the days of like everyone else's stuff, all those wounding stuff, or the traumatic experiences. They become wounding, become layers. They become layers of not the wounding, so the energetic imprints become layers on blocking out the awareness of these other sensations that tend to go on within us in our internal guidance system, which includes our physical being. It's an antenna. It's a receptor. It receives information, and attempts to signal to us by, say, ways of pain or other physical sensations. It's telling us there's something going on within a part of our being. And so as heart-based being, obviously tuned out that somewhat, dimmed that because of listening to other people and listening to myself. No judgment to myself or to the others, it's just the way it was. But I realise now that looking back, all of those were initiations and trainings for who I am right here, right now. They were all in preparation for me right now, what I'm doing right now, which at the moment is just talking into a microphone, allowing the connection that I've always had with the divine love and that high vibrational frequency of divine love to provide insights in the form of, visuals, words, feelings, that then some part of my being translates and allows to come out my mouth in the form of words. But in those words, when that energy is flowing through, that divine energy is flowing through, there's an energetic resonance that can actually be felt with the words that are coming out. When we speak, when we are authentically speaking our truth, and when that truth is divine truth, we're speaking in essence. Words are so powerful. Words are spells. It's called spelling for a reason. When we are aligned like that, when we are connected like that, when we are allowing through like that, there is an essence of us, but there is also an essence of this other energy that comes through when I speak. And I know this because not only if I can feel the shift, I can feel the shift within me happening. I can feel it ramp up. I can feel the changes in my physical body change when I'm saying these words. I can feel the actual energetic resonance as I speak it. It's more than it is just when I'm just speaking as my part of my human self. And also other people have told me the voice, when I've left them voice notes, when I spoke to them face to face with, I've had feedback from others. It's not just my own internal guidance and feedback that I get, but it's also I've had feedback from the outside world as well, from the external. And I've been doing this long enough now to know how true this is and how much, we all have access and the capability of doing this. It's just not all of us will choose to do so. And that's perfectly perfect. Maybe they'll choose in the next incarnation, maybe the next reality, maybe the next timeline, who knows, the next new version of Earth, if there is one, whatever. I don't obviously know all about that. Oh, okay, let's stop going off on tangents. Is what that's saying to me. Come back to love, come back to love. But I know in this right here, right now, if more of us can just simply pause, take a breath, and come into a place of feeling what's going on inside of us, not what's really, but what's going on inside of us, as a way to know thyself better, ourselves better. All of this brings its own benefits. Yes, it may seem scary, some of the things that it will flag up, especially when we've buried things deep down inside. Those things have to come out at some point. If we are going to traverse this path, if we are going to go about the awakening path, and if we are going to awake, which is me, is just awakening to self and awakening to the divine, which is, the connection to self for me. Other people may see it in different ways, may feel it in different ways, and that's perfectly perfect. We all have our own way of doing this. We all have our own way of feeling whatever we choose to term divine love. But the more that we can connect with it, however we choose to do that, as long as we're filling it with the heart, that's the most important thing. Is for me is connecting. When I was doing grounding before, I would ground, and I would always ground down to Mother Earth, and I would bring, not ground up, but I would connect up to the cosmos, Mother, Father, God, Source, Creator. But at the time, I wasn't doing it from a place. I was doing it from my heart, but it was different. And then, so beforehand, I heard a lot about, even still, when you're asking messages from your guides and stuff, like, you're still seeking externally outside of you for the answers that are within. So now, when we pause, we breathe, and we feel, we come into the heart first, and not just my heart, my human heart, but my sacred heart. My sacred heart is the vortex, is the portal for that divine energy to come through, that divine love to come through. And other high vibrational energies and frequencies to come through. But love being the most, for me, the most powerful, because love is all is love, creation is love, love is creation. That's ultimately, I said, where we'll come from and where we'll all go back to. It is the beginning and the ending of everything, although there is no ending. So it is just everything ever evolving, ever ongoing, limitless, infinite, endless, eternal, as we are all. Because it is all, and it is us as we are it. And with the energy that comes through, it will resonate or it will not. If it resonates, it's activating your sacred heart. That triggering that we give to other people is an opportunity for them to feel the activation of their sacred heart, to allow whatever needs to come up and be fully exposed to themselves. Those blind spots, those woundings we have, which can be blind spots. I was holding on to a blind spot for 25 years of very not nice stuff that happened during a violent abusive relationship I was in many years ago. It's a younger version of me, and I don't relive any of that stuff anymore when I say that, because it wasn't me, the me that I am now. It wasn't me. It was just a different version of me. It was a different aspect of a different version of me. But I mention that as it's something that was so traumatic at the time to that version of me, that the mind is so powerful that I was able to completely bottle up those specific certain types of experiences within that relationship, to completely bottle that and box that away for 25 years. That I had, when it came up, it was such a shock at the time, because I had no inkling. Obviously some part of me did, but my consciousness had no inkling at the time that that even happened, because at the time I didn't even register it as what it was at the time. I completely blocked it out on a conscious level, because it was just too painful to deal with at the time for that version of me. So 25 years later, it all kind of came up. But this shows how powerful the mind is, that we can have these blind spots of wounding that we don't even realize. But yet those blind spots of wounding, even though we consciously may not be aware of them, subconsciously, they're in our subconscious. Subconscious remembers everything. It never goes to sleep. It remembers, it's switched on 24/7, recording absolutely everything. They'll be sitting in the subconscious, and now obviously those beliefs and stuff that we make up because of those woundings that we create, then create our perspective, which then creates our reality, because we're attracting and attracted to what is from our distorted frequency. Our distorted frequency is the woundings, the traumatic experiences, which are then caused a wounding, which cause limiting belief. That's our distorted frequency. So for years I'd have had these beliefs about all these different things about me, and about how love is meant to be or how love is not meant to be, and what I'm seeking, what I'm looking for. And a lot of, a big chunk of that would have been dictated by, if you like, it would have been dictated by this big chunk of sort of blind spot wounding that I had, that I wasn't aware that I was even hanging on to back then. Can you see how the energy's changed now that I was talking about that? So let's move on from that. But just to give you, I think that, that the mind is very powerful. Our beings are very, very powerful. And when we are tuned in to the divine love, into that frequency of divine love, that we can achieve anything. We can be anything. We can achieve anything. Everything and anything is possible. In an infinite, limitless, eternal multiverse, we truly can be whomever we choose to be. And for me, I choose in every now moment, as much as I possibly consciously and subconsciously can. And subconsciously is a whole other ball game of there's stuff that needs to be transmuted in the subconscious, and even that can just be a program. The whole fact that we have to do something to be able to eradicate what's happened to us previously. And every single, according to Bashar, and this really resonates for me, so if this resonates with you, then Bashar is someone that you may want to go and Google search and check out if you've not heard them before. And Bashar says about in every single, and this is just another expanded level, if you like, way of perceiving reality and the way energy and creation works. It's not just about the world, it's about how creation works. And in the beginning, when I first started listening to this stuff, I got, maybe on some level, like I resonated with it because I carried on listening to it, but I get it more now because it's a different version of me now. And Bashar says in every single, the way that creation works is there's loads of different realities all kind of side by side running simultaneously, consecutively, or not consecutively but simultaneously all at the same time. So the decision I made to do this there and there, in another different reality there is a decision of me decided I'd had enough of this and gone and done something else, and then there's another version of me that had decided, made the opposite decision to that. And as it goes on, I think it's infinite, it's limitless, it's eternal, it's endless. So everything exists, and we can jump from one to another. And apparently, according to Bashar, if you can get your head around this, we are, but not get your head around it, feel the resonance of the truth of the words. If they're true for you, that's how you know if they're true for you. Does it resonate with you? These things resonate with me on so many different levels that I just know that they're truth for me because they make sense. Even in the beginning, even beforehand, when I first started listening to it, it didn't quite make sense on a logical level back then, but it wasn't meant to, but it made sense on another level for me. Now it makes more sense on a logical level just because I've expanded my consciousness in a sense, so therefore we have a different perspective and therefore we're able to hold more light, be lightful. I love that, be lightful, but hold more light, hold more love, have different frequency, therefore it's a different perspective. Expanded frequency, raised frequency, expanded perspective. So understand these things on a different level, understand these things more. And he says that with these realities, we jump every single, nanosecond, every single split second, we kind of jump in between reality. So in every single now moment, as much as we can be present in the now moment, every single now moment, we're a new version of us in a new, completely different reality. It's happening so quickly, we don't always catch it. But there are those, like myself, that at the moment are going to be experiencing all of this on a different level because we're becoming more aware. And everything and everyone is becoming more aware. It's just everyone's at different stages of their awareness journey. And that is the spiritual evolutionary path. It's at different stages of the awareness journey. There are those that I interact with. I don't interact with them as much as I did, but my human self, when I'm my human self, will interact with them. So it's a different kind of version of self. And that's a whole other story of just being able to just be this one version of me and interact with anyone and everyone. And that's part of what this is to allow myself to be seen more as the more truth, authentic version of me, which for me is my divine self. That is where I feel resonance with myself so much more. That's where I feel the truth of love so much more, is that frequency of me. And the more that I can go into the world, and the more that other people that resonate with those kind of frequencies that are just love in some way, shape or form, divine love in some way, shape or form, the more that we go into the world as our expanded self, as our divine self, fully allowing ourselves to be that and to be seen and heard and felt as that, the more triggerings we're going to cause, yes, which then can be the more chance of activations, if those beings choose them to be activations, but also the more love we're going to be spreading in the world. By just being a being of love, by me staying connected as a being of love and my expanded self as a being of love, fully knowing myself as a being of love, of divine love, and allowing that to come through, to just go walking around the world with that expanded energy, with that vibrational frequency, it changes things. They've done studies where I think they got I think it was a group of monks who used to obviously, meditate obviously for extended time periods daily, and they got them to actually meditate. Now these, because they meditate in the way they were, their vibrational frequency would have really been however high up that vibrational scale. They would have been, more connected to love, to divine love, to God, etc., because they were doing that obviously on a daily basis. That was their lives. That's who they were. That was their being. And they got them to, I believe, to meditate sort of love and peace on a particular place in the world for a time period. And they shown that the crime rate, the death rate on that particular place that they were doing, that place in the world, I don't remember exactly where it was or how long ago it was, but I'm sure it was Tibetan monks, group meditation. I just can't remember the place in the world, but I'm sure if you Google search group meditation by Tibetan monks, decreased crime rate, for example. And it was shown that it decreased the crime rate, it decreased, I believe, the death rate, it decreased, I think, various other sort of parts of the human drama experience that are quite commonplace from from a common perspective. And they decreased it, and when they stopped, they increased again. So it shows the power. I mean, Abraham Hicks goes on about there's someone who is more connected to, or more walking around in the vibration of love, and I mean actual divine love, actually authentically, truly, not false love, but authentically and truly tuning into that frequency of divine love. When they might just call it love, but I call it divine love, and allowing that to come through. You're fully allowing creation, divine love as creation, or creation as divine love to co-create with you. You're fully allowing that to happen from an authentic, you're connected, your heart is expanded, your sacred heart is open, the energies are there, and then you're fully allowing yourself to be guided as much as possible in those. And Bashar says in there is no as much as possible. In every single moment, we can be guided by our divine self, by our heart, which is just our creative play. What is that? He says, the formula is, what is our most excitement? What is the most exciting thing for us to do in that present now? To do that for as much as we possibly can until that excitement starts to wane naturally. Again, you can go and find out the Bashar formula for happiness on sort of Google search or on YouTube, and you'll find it. And it'll give the breakdown. And again, that really resonates with me. Have I done that every single present moment since I heard that? No. I still have human, stuff running, but I do intend to do it as much as when I'm aware, because sometimes become unaware, but it's becoming more aware, and each and every moment I'm becoming more aware of self and what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, or what I would like to be doing, what I prefer and what I don't prefer. Every moment is a what do I do prefer and what I do not prefer experience, opportunity. And the more that we can live with that perspective, the more that we can live with the belief, the knowing, not just the belief, the feeling, the knowing feeling that we are all one, that we are all connected, that everything is just a projection of who I am internally. The whole external world is just trying to show me something, and choose to take those, what could potentially be a triggering, and allow it to be an activation of more of me coming into myself, to the truth of myself, to the truth of divine love. The more freedom we have. Feels like a good place to end, to stop the recording there. I can feel the energy start to change as there we go, yawning. But I did pull another couple of cards. I'll just do another couple of cards from these cards. I did actually have the cards there to possibly pull more, but the cards, I've heard many other people, people that I've listened to on YouTube and other beings and stuff, which I'm going to say, it comes to a point of where the cards are no longer needed. I've been automatic writing, or doing a sort of automatic writing technique for a few years now. And it's got to the point of where, and that's kind of how allowing these energies to come through, if you like, to be expressed, kind of really started. I became more aware of what was already there and just allowed it to come through more. The cards are kind of an extension of that. Everything is an extension of just allowing that connection more, being more aware of it. But they're not actually really needed. Like, I don't really use cards in the way that they're always supposed to be used. I use them in a way that I'm intuitively guided to use them. I think that maybe that is it. Oh, no, it isn't. Feel the power of now. I do love the way that's actually showing that the right way around. I don't know what's happened to the camera, but I do love the fact that it's doing that. So feel the power of now. Each now we have the opportunity to bring ourselves and the external, through ourselves, more divine love. And to just go out into the world, experiment with this stuff. Pause, breathe, feel. Connect to that which you feel more of as love. When you start to connect with that, when you start to connect with it, when the Sacred Heart is activated or starts to reactivate, whichever the case it is, and you start to sit in that space and you feel that love, that divine love come through, you'll know as soon as it sparks, as soon as it clicks back on, or not necessarily clicks back on, but just something switches, something turns, it feels like something's turned on. You'll know it, you'll feel it, and you'll be forever different, but more expanded. I know it's because that's what happened to myself. And it's a beautiful, wondrous thing. And then you can share that around for all the people that you love. 111. I shall leave it there. Thank you for sharing this sacred, loving, divine love space with me. I will at some point be doing live streams, and that will be, well, maybe I'll be doing live streams. I have an inkling to an urge to do a live stream. We're just gonna, that's just possibly the next inspired action step. This was it, just uploading this video is the next inspired action step. And we'll just see where we're divinely guided from there. But enjoy. Joy comes from within, in joy, not enjoy, enjoy. Be more lightful, be more full of the light and the love, divine light. This is where divine freedom lies. Thank you to all the beings that have co-created with me and have made this possible. Thank you to the divine love, energies and frequencies that come through. Maybe just for a second before I end this, we can all just take a breath together. Close our eyes. Palms resting up on our laps if we choose to receive these energies, these frequencies. If we choose to connect, tune into more, that which is already a part of us, the expanded part of us. As you're breathing, breathe deep, breathe into the stomach, expanding it as far as you can. Hold for a second or two with the breath fully inside, and then release. Let go. Let go of the breath, let go of the stomach. Allow the stomach to decrease as you slowly exhale the air out of your mouth. We'll do this 4 or 5 times. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold with your tongue against the roof of your mouth. 2, 3. Exhale out through your mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold with the breath expended outside of the body for 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale through the nose, put the tongue against the roof of your mouth. Breathing into the stomach, 4, 5. Holding with your tongue against the roof of your mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale out of the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold for a second. 2, 3. Inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold with the tongue against the roof of your mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale through the mouth. 2, 3. Feel your energy. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you let your breathing to return to just its natural state, if you can continue breathing, being aware of breathing in the stomach and out, using the stomach to breathe in and out, then do so. If not, it doesn't matter. But feel in this space. Feel if there's any physical sensations going on that were not there before. Are your hands tingling? Do you feel a warming sensation? Do you have saliva in your mouth? Do you feel like your mind has just slowed down even a little bit? Can you feel your heart beating just that little bit more? And in this space, feel your body, feel your physical body, feel if you're standing, what's beneath your feet, if you're sitting, what's beneath your bottom. If you're leaning against something, what's pressed up against your back or against the front of you or the side of you. Feel where you are, where your physicalness is. Feel where the physical object is. Feel where your energy is on the outside of you. That tingling sensation around your hands, around your feet, around other parts of your body, that is your energetic field. You can tune into this any time. You're already always tuned in. It's becoming the tuning in, it's becoming more aware of. And to become more aware of that which is those greater parts of us, those more expanded parts of us, those parts that we're not usually aware of the majority of the time. When we're in our head, we're in our mostly humanness of it all. We forget sometimes, we tune out more of the frequency of our own energetic field, our own individual frequency, our core vibration that flows from within the energetic field which sits all around us, which is part of us as much as we are part of it. It is an extension of us. It is part of our whole being. And it's forever communicating with us. When you walk into a room when there's been an argument, yet no one is there, and you can feel the tension in the air, that is your energetic field letting you know the energetic imprint that's been left in the air after what has ever happened has happened. And you're picking up on that. Your energetic field is aware of the frequency of the tension that is left in that space. It's part of our guidance system. When we meet someone that we don't really get on with, or when we meet with someone that we really get on with, I've seen pictures of how our energetic fields are mingling, or our energetic fields our back away from the other energetic field of the other being that we're coming into contact with. Just they don't resonate, or they do resonate. Our energetic field is forever speaking to us if we know how to listen, if we know how to interpret, if we know how to. And with interpret just comes with a feeling, just allowing ourselves to feel the resonance of what is truth for us in every single present moment. And as we become aware of that present moment, we become more aware of eternal, we can start to feel our heartbeat get louder. We can feel it reverberates the whole of our body. Say to yourself, I connect with my heart. I choose to connect with my heart. I choose to be aware of the power of my heart. I choose to align and tune into the frequency of my heart. And be aware of how that feels, of what's coming up for you when you say those words. And if it feels good, if it feels like love, and you feel called to, you feel a calling to, you feel a resonance with, then do this practice more. You're bringing yourself into heart coherence, as they call it, the heart mind, heart math calls it. When we're aligning our hearts and our minds, that may include our bodies too, but we're kind of aligning all those different parts of us into, bringing them all into balance. We can live in our most authentic truth when all parts of us are aligned, when the energy that is us is flowing freely through all parts of us that are us, because we are aligned. We're aligned and we're open in the sense of our transmission centers, our energetic ley line, our energetic meridian lines are, those energies are all running as they are divinely intended, divinely meant to be running around us, through us, within us. It's a very expanded, beautiful space to be in when we're in that space. It's the space of miracles. It's the space of the sacred heart activation. It's the space of divine love. It's the space of home. And with that, I will leave you there now. I went a little bit longer than I expected, but I have recently learned an expectation is just a limitation. When we're expecting something to happen a certain way, which is a place I was at, expecting a certain type of outcome. I'm getting all sorts of nice, pretty Mandela pictures when I close my eyes, which again are just another way of being spoken to. If you see pictures when you close your eyes, oh, very nice. Don't always understand exactly what they mean, but I feel them. But when we're in that space of love and miracles, when we're in the sacred heart activation space, it really is a place of miracles. Wondrous things begin to happen. It's not a case wondrous things begin to happen. It's because we have chosen to believe again, to perceive again the world as it's really is a place of magical, wondrous possibilities. Creation as a magical, wondrous place of possibilities. The world is not always perceived to be that way, but if we are living in a place if we are living and perceiving the world as a place of fear, then that is what we will attract in. That's what we'll be attracted to. That's what we'll get in our external, because that's what we feel internally. But moving on from that subject, the expectation, I realised, was limiting. Is not a limiting belief as such, but it's a limitation, because the expectation, if I'm expecting something, I'm expecting it from my limited perspective. There's still human perspective that goes into this. Even my most expanded conscious level of consciousness is still limited compared to the creation's perspective. So it'll always be limited from that perspective. So if I've got an expectation on something, then I'm limiting the manifestation, because I only have a limited perspective of it. Therefore, my expectation is limited. So, no expectations, no limitations. Just magic and miracles. Thank you again. Blessings of divine love, divine truth, and divine freedom for all.